Okay, here we go. So quiet down for a moment, guys. Okay, so this is a slate, okay? So we're going to delve a little bit into cinematography in this lesson as well. So all the concepts that we're going to learn in regards to photography also go with movie making. So you've probably seen these like in movie productions and things like that. The purpose of the slate is to mark your sound, also to convey your thumbnail, the information to your editor about what scene this is. It makes their life much easier. It also, so the way you mark the sound is the director's going to go mark, and then your slate operator's going to do that. It creates a spike in the sound, which allows your editor to go in and sync up the good sound versus the sound that's recorded off of the camera. Okay, the other purpose of this is that you'll notice it has this right here. And this is essentially color gradations that help you balance your white balance within your movies, but also works for photographs. So when I'm doing a shoot where the light's not changing, I will use what's called a gray card. That's what this is here. And I'm going to be doing all of my photographs for middle gray. So that's how I balance all the colors, so I make sure that my whites are true. You can also color balance off of white and pure black. So those are options for you as well, but most of the time middle gray is what you want to go for. So, and this gives you exactly those colors. You can also go in and essentially, if you click on yellow, what color do you think you're gonna get?
Yellow. White.
What's the opposite on the color wheel?
Blue.
You're gonna get a blue color,
Blue.
right? So whatever color you click on, so if you want a greenish hue, you're gonna click on the red. If you want a reddish hue, a much warmer one, you can click on the green. So you can control, as an artist, the look of your movies, the look of your photographs, all of those things. So you have a lot of control over those things. Okay, so that's the gray card, which we're kind of talking about. It also applies to the movie making as well. Okay, so over here, we have my invisible friend. I haven't named him yet, so I'm over to suggestions.
Ethan.
Yeah, Ethan's a good name.
Ethan's a good name. Okay. So we have it up on the screen here so you can all see what's happening for this project. You're going to take a total of 7 images. How many? 7. Good job. All right. So we turn the camera on. At this point, you should all know how to insert your SD card. You want to make sure you remove it from the camera. You're not going to be tethered. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to change it to what mode? Manual or aperture priority? I'm going to do manual, okay? Because I want to have complete control over my photograph. Okay, and this is something new. We are going to expose the image, and we're not going to even look through the viewfinder, okay? We're going to be using what's called your exposure compensation. See this little, those -3 to 0, the +3? To get a well-exposed photo, where do you think we need to be? 0. That's will tell us. So it's called censoring. It's going to censor the light, and it's going to tell us what is a well-exposed photograph. So I can look through here. So I know a couple things I want. I want to have an ISO of 100, right? I want the highest quality photograph, right?
Right.
I also want to have an aperture. So I want to allow as much light in as possible. And then we're going to adjust our shutter speed. And as I adjust my shutter speed, you'll notice that my shutter speed is changing. So right now we're at 1/25 of a second. Now, I could not handheld this shot because if I did, it would be blurry, okay? But since I'm on a tripod, we're okay. So once I get my settings in, the other thing is we want to make sure that we're on a JPEG image. We're not to RAW images yet. I'm going to take one RAW image to demonstrate for you how that is the most, shooting an auto white balance in RAW is the most useful way. And I'm going to show you why once we get it on the screen. So we're going to start with that. So the first thing, you're not going to do this. I'm just going to use it for demonstration purposes. I'm going to take one in RAW. So let me format my card here really fast. So menu. Try that again. Format. When you format the card, you lose all the images on that device. It also makes your device more compatible with the card, more compatible with the device. All right. So we're going to change the quality to RAW for just one image, and we're going to set it to auto white balance. So of your directional pad here, it is the bottom one. It says WB. And we're going to do auto for the first one. All right. The next thing I need to do is I need to make sure that my image is in focus. So I'm going to put it on live view mode so we can see here. Now I pre-focused this camera ahead of time so we can kind of jump into it. But what you're going to do is you're going to want to zoom in. So we shoot for the eyes always, right? We're going to zoom in on the eyes and we can manually focus it. So make sure that your lens is on manual focus as well. So nice and crispy image there. So we know that we're in focus and we're composed well. I'm going to take my photograph.
That's looking pretty crispy.
All right. So we can see up here on the screen now we have our frog, and that looks pretty good. The camera did a pretty good job of estimating what color white was. Like that looks like pure white to me. But we can see out the AWB, so that tells me what it was in. Okay. You guys are going to start with a JPEG image. So let's go back to our quality.
JPEG has worse quality.
All right. So I'm going to take the first one. And then I'm going to go adjust my white balance. So this is your auto white balance. So we're just going to daylight. And then I'm going to adjust it again. So 7 quick images. It should not take very long. Fade. Cloudy. You'll notice as I'm doing this, it gives me the Kelvin approximate scale as well. So 6,000 Kelvin. So what was the blue skies? You remember what that one was?
Tongan.
1,000. Yep. So when you get to chemistry class and you guys start talking about the Kelvin scale, you can be like, hey, we use the same thing in photography, right? Cool.
That's cray.
Cool little cross-curricular action there for you.
Yep.
Backsplash. Okay, so we can see here all of our settings. We know that this was shot in manual mode. We know what the symbol there for the white balance is. ISO. It gives us all that information. So starting from the beginning, here is our JPEG image. I'm sorry, a raw image, auto white balance. And as we scroll through them, let me change it so you can see a little bit right here. You're gonna notice. So there's our JPEG auto white balance. Hey scholars, Mr. Byrne here. All right, so we just took our photographs of our frog friend here, and as I mentioned earlier, I took the very first image in a RAW format, and I'm going to show you the advantage of that in post-production versus just a typical JPEG. We're going to lead with that. This is not something you're going to have to do for your project, but I wanted you to see this and be aware of what this is and kind of how it impacts your photo taking. Specifically, one of the main things we need to talk about is storage. A RAW file is 4 times bigger than a typical JPEG, so that you will take less images that you can put on those cards and on your hard drives. So storage is always concerned. We really break this down in digital photography too. Just want to make you aware of it. But the editing aspect of it, the advantage of a RAW file, is that if we come over here, we're in Lightroom currently, is I can actually go in and I have my white balance options here. And the very first one is as shot. So the camera does a pretty good job of trying to guess what white should look like. But in a RAW file actually allows you to go through and you can give the computer a try. This is the computer's attempt at auto, but you can also go in and change it for all of the different white balance options that are available, which is kind of cool. So if you're shooting in RAW, you don't really even have to be concerned with white balance, because this is something that you can easily fix in post-production, and that's where a gray card really comes into effect, and we really get to that later on. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. Whereas a JPEG, so we'll go back to as shot here. This is the JPEG of the same image. You can see that it's gone through that Byrne interpolation, and it's kind of toned up a little better than the other one. That the RAW file is a little flatter, but that's the beauty of RAW files, is you kind of make them your own. But here we have a compressed JPEG that's auto. But if we look at our white balance options here, you'll notice that we are much more limited here. We have auto and custom, which means that you can go in and move the sliders around and do your best to
figure out what true white is as well. Using the color picker tool is another way to do that. So you can balance off of 3 things. You can balance off pure white, you can balance off of pure black, or you can balance off of middle gray. And what that means is we use this color picker tool here, and you can select on an image. So the closest thing to pure black would probably be in the eyes here. And you click on that, and it's going to get close to that, where the white should look white. So let's just kind of, as a concept, we'll pull this tungsten one here. If we were to color balance off the black here, you're going to see that it's going to change. That resembles more of that first one we looked at. So still not quite there, but much better than it was. Let's try it one more time here. Let's see. And that's not pure black, as you can see. Pure black would be all the way to the end here. That's where gray card would really come into effect with that, and that's a whole different lesson that we could do. All right, so for now, we are going to edit these photos into our project file. So you're going to be provided with a PSD that looks just like this, and these are some custom graphics I made for you. So if you took the images in the order as they are on the camera, this should be pretty straightforward. What you're going to do is you're going to open up all of your 7 images, starting at auto white balance all the way up through Flash, and open those up in Photoshop. So File, Open, and we're going to pull those off our SD card. So let me pop that in really fast. Show up, there it is. All right, and then DCMI 100 Canon, and the CR2 designation, that tells me that it's a raw file. So there's my first one. Here are the other 7 images that we took. So I can either select them this way, or I can do a shift click where I click, hold down the shift button, and then click again, and then it's going to open up all 7 of those images in Photoshop. Step 1 for all of this is going to be cropping these down to a usable size, because in the end we're going to end up making, well, you'll see. Okay, the first thing we do is crop it out here. So using the crop tool, keyboard shortcut C, as you can see right there. And we want to do this 3 inches by 2 inches by a DPI of 300. And the cool part is, once I do this once, enter, I can just go right to the next image and straight on down the line. And I'm just hitting enter twice, lock in those parameters. Alright, so we're on image number 2, which is our first auto white balanced image. Now back to the move tool, keyboard shortcut V. I'm going to click on it and drag it into my PSD. Alright, so now that we're in our PSD, I'm just going to drop that where I know it's going to go approximately. And what we want here is we actually want the text to be, so let's go over this Photoshop document really fast. So at the top here we have our text layer. You're going to be inserting your name there. So we can actually start with that first. So Han Solo. Alright. And then we have our layers here. So the problem here is we want to have our white balance icons on top of our image here. So we just need to make sure that this layer 1 is beneath our white balance icons. So I grouped those icons for you. So there's all the different icons. So just make sure that your images are below this layer, and we should be good. I think I dropped that in there. There we go. Pull that back out. And we're going to drop that below it. There we go. So now the auto white balance. So using the move tool one more time, we're just going to center this right on that. And this is essentially going to be once you place that first one, you're going to align the rest of your images based off of that one. All right, so let's go grab our next one. So we are done with this image. That shows what auto white balance does. Image 3, again, pull it over. And like I said, if you go in the order, it should be nice and easy. And we want to get our alignment there. See the purple lines, good. All right, then close that out. Go to your next one. All right, this is our shade. All right, very good. And then our next one, which is going to be cloudy. You'll notice that shade and cloudy look very similar in color schemes. favorite tungsten, which is always going to be that really blue color one. This is also a great thing to use in movie making and film. All right, let's get the slight adjustment here. Bring this up a little bit. There we go. Good. And then our fluorescent. And then lastly, our flash. Set it right on the icon there. There we go. Good alignment. So what I'm looking for here in your final project is the alignment between your images. The icons should be approximately in the middle of those images. The images should be in focus. That's always important. And that your name is correctly at the top. You're going to save this as a JPEG. So Command-Shift-S brings up your Save As dialog box. And understanding white balance. And all I want you to do is insert your name at the end. So Han Solo. And you're going to change the format to JPEG right there. Then once you click save, it's going to bring up your quality options. Make sure the quality options are set to 12. Click OK. And then your final product should look exactly like this. You're going to submit this into Google Classroom. If you have questions, please let me know at jbyrne@topamel.com. Thanks and have a great day, scholars.